Hello everyone and welcome back to another review, this time for Celeste, a brutally challenging indie platformer game released in 2018 and developed by Extremely OK Games. This game is available for a multitude of systems and services, but the particular version I'm reviewing is the PC version via Steam. In fact, I played this through my recently acquired Steam Deck portable handheld system, and the game worked flawlessly, which is not surprising considering this is one of the many games that are considered Deck verified, meaning it has been tested by Valve employees and has no issues or glitches playing through the Steam Deck hardware. Now, personally, I can say that third time was the charm for me, in particular with Celeste. I first played Celeste a couple years back on the Xbox One when I believe it was a Game Pass game at one point. So I was excited to try the game out after all the acclaim it received, and I remember some people claiming this was like the best platformer they played, of all time. So of course I wanted to try the game since I'm a huge fan of platforming games, but at the same time I was a little bit skeptical since I tend to be like an old school gamer when it comes to platformers, and I tend to prefer the safe route and prefer games of old, like the classic Nintendo platformers and so forth. So and in addition to that, I have an unwarranted amount of distrust towards modern platformers that use the retro art style. For whatever reason, I just find it a little bit off-putting. So I can't really explain why, but I just have this level of distrust of modern, games that use the old school retro, style. So with that being said, I only made it past the first chapter on the Xbox One before I dropped the game, since I was a little bit frustrated with the difficulty and couldn't understand what all the acclaim for the game was. Now, my second attempt was when Celeste was offered as one of the monthly games for Stadia Pro subscribers, and under that second attempt, I believe I made it until the end of Chapter 3, so I gained a little bit more respect for the game, but eventually got sidetracked and dropped the game. Now, fast forward to present time, and when I received the Steam Deck, I was going through the list of Deck-verified games in my library, and Celeste was there, so I decided to give it a third try. Probably a very crazy idea considering this is a hard as balls game, and it's not the smartest idea to be playing this on a brand new hardware that's portable. It's like the perfect recipe to get angry and just throw the new hardware into the ground or to the wall or something like that. But at any rate, third time was the charm, and I was able to complete the main story just recently and had a great time, and have to admit I ended up enjoying this a whole lot, and it's now one of my favorite modern platformers games out there. Story-wise, this game puts the players in the shoes of Madeline, a girl set on climbing Celeste Mountain despite the warnings given by locals. Along her journey, she meets a number of peculiar characters that will appear along your journey, and you're able to talk to them and just learn a little bit more about them. But the good thing is that they're not very intrusive. All the talk scenes in the game, if you will, are very, very short. The focus of the game is definitely the gameplay and not the talking points, if you will. The story, the short side of the story is that you're trying to reach the summit of Celeste Mountain, but the true intention of the story is to actually highlight some mental health issues that the main character is going through, and this will become more apparent as you progress through the later chapters in the game. So kind of like I guess a dark and mature topic for a kind of cute looking game, so there's a contrast in there that the developers managed to handle flawlessly, in my opinion, throughout the course of the game. Now, graphically, the game uses a retro look with sprites resembling a fusion of kind of like an NES and SNES era graphics, with some modern touches obviously in the background with some special effects and whatnot. As mentioned previously, I'm not a huge fan of modern indie games that try to pay homage to Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, but I got used to it, and for what it's worth, the game does a good job of creating the right atmosphere when needed, with the use of certain color palettes and things like that. The mountain features different terrains and levels that offer good visuals, a good visual variety, ranging from the regular snowy mountain areas to enclosed caves and dungeons, a cursed hotel, and even lush nature environments in some of the later chapters. So lots of good variety and colors sprinkled throughout the different levels in the game. Now, sound-wise, the game features a very good soundtrack with some tunes that will be sticking to your head. The game features a similar gibberish voice acting, if you can call that, similar to the Animal Crossing games. That, in my opinion, is a welcome addition to give the characters a little bit more personality and convey their emotions during conversations in the game. Now, gameplay is what really makes Celeste, though. You start with a basic moveset that involves jumping, dashing in mid-air, and holding onto walls, which in itself consumes stamina, so you have to be careful on how long you're clenching onto the walls. You can only perform one dash in mid-air before you have to land and have a chance to perform the same move again. As you progress through the game, you will add a couple more moves to your set, and there are items that have different effects that also become part of the platforming challenges in the later chapters. For example, there's a feather item that when you hit it, you can float and fly continuously for a short period of time. So there are a couple of items and I guess quirks in later levels that are part of the challenging platforming sections of the game. Celeste reminded me of Super Meat Boy in the sense that the game is brutally hard, but the beauty of how the game is set up is that it encourages immediate replays of the screen you just died in by providing instant tries after each death. Even though the game is very hard, this mechanic allows the player to keep trying over and over and over again, and surprisingly the game is not as aggravating as one may think. Hey, after all, my Steam Deck was still intact after I beat the game, so that goes without saying. I think part of the greatness of Celeste is the rewarding feeling you get after you clear every screen. I personally found myself saying, okay, this is definitely impossible. How in the world am I going to clear this screen right now? But after a few tries, you end up conquering, the screens, and then basically, rinse and repeat, with the subsequent screens and levels. You keep telling yourself, there's no way I can beat this. And then after you retry a couple times, you get the hang of it. You know what tricks to use. You know what platforming, order of things you have to do, and that's how you continue throughout the game. The funny part is that by the time you complete the game and you revisit the early stages to get collectibles, you find yourself having a much easier time thanks to mastering all the moves and just comprehending the physics of the game really well from just raw repetition. So by the time you beat the game, it's almost like muscle memory. You have the physics of the game ingrained in your brain, and it makes for easier repetition of earlier levels to get the collectibles, which in part are important because the more strawberries you collect in the game, the better the ending is, so to speak. It's just a little tidbit there, but you don't have to get all the strawberries. They're optional, obviously, and but it was always a fun challenge trying to get as many as I could throughout the course of the game. And I want to say I got more than half the amount of strawberries, so my goal will be to go back and see if I can get all of them throughout the course of the story mode. Now, each chapter has a secret tape that unlocks the B-sides, which is basically a harder version of that world with new screens and levels. And if that is not enough for you, there are C-side levels as well, which are even harder than the B-sides. Additionally, the developer has added a couple of extra chapters over the course of the years for the game, so it's easy to say that this game has a ton of replay value and will have you coming back for more and more content. I really can't find a whole lot wrong with Celeste. I truly ended up falling in love with this game, being a platforming fan. And now that I finally beat the game, I can see why this is one of the highest praised indie games in recent memory. If for whatever reason you haven't tried Celeste yet, I highly recommend that you do. The game does offer an assist mode, which is good if you have younger ones, or perhaps good for disabled gamers out there. that want to experience the full extent of the game without, suffering through the, challenging courses. However, I must implore that you give the game a shot without using assist mode at all, since that's where the challenge and therefore the rewarding feeling lies. And actually, since I'm talking about assist mode, I guess I do have one gripe with the game, and that's the fact that you can actually get all the achievements in the game while using assists, which is a very poor design choice in my opinion. You see, in assist mode, you can use unlimited air dashes, turn damage off, and so forth, removing any sort of challenging accomplishment from the game. So, I'm not against the inclusion of assist modes in games in general. In fact, I think all games should have some sort of assistance for people that don't want to face a challenge, but at the very least, have achievements that reward those who will not use the assist. It's very hard to tell, people that have played this game who beat the game truthfully and who hasn't. So it's a very deceiving game in that regard, in terms of the achievements. I personally don't think that I will ever 100% complete the game just because of how hard it is. But it's kind of unfair to have someone that doesn't care about the game and just wants to have the platinum trophy or 100%. That person can just turn assist mode on and get all the achievements. Kind of like a BS way, and I'm kind of glad I don't take achievements and or platinum trophies as seriously as I used to, because of things like this, the loss of value in terms of achieving the the different things in games. But anyways, that kind of is my biggest rant, I guess, for the game that I have against this game. But as I mentioned before, Celeste is truly a wonderful game that should be played by any and all platforming game enthusiasts out there. The game has really challenging levels, but it rewards the player, repeating the levels and getting to know exactly, the physics of the game, the jumps, the move sets, and everything. You really have to master and control, your character the best way possible in order to finish the game. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later. Take it easy.